That's what I'm looking for right now, make sure. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Did we start the recorder?
Would you start that, please?
What
Thank you. Recorder?
has been pushed?
Thank you. The hearing of the Board of Zoning and Building of Appeals now is called to order at 6:30. Where's the clock? Thank you, 6:30 on August 18th, 2021. I ask the recording secretary to please call roll for the attendance of members of the board, please.
Mr. Pilato,
Here.
Mr. Ferraro,
Here.
Mr. Shalko,
Here.
Mr. Iafreda.
Speaking.
All persons in the audience are required to sign in on the register sheet. Has everyone done that? Thank you. If you wish to speak at this hearing, you will be required to be sworn in as any court of law. Minutes from last meeting, okay? Has everybody taken a look at it?
Yes.
Yes. I make a motion, we accept the minutes from the previous meeting.
I'll second them. All in favor? Or you take a roll call, I'm sorry.
Mr. Pilato,
Yes.
Mr. Ferraro,
Yes.
Mr. Shalko,
Yes.
Mr. Iafreda.
Yes.
Thank you. All persons wishing to speak on the issues will please raise their right hand and affirm this oath. Anybody that's wishing to speak this evening, would you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give before the board is to the best of your knowledge and accurate and truthful presentation of the facts? If so, say I do.
I do.
Please state your name and your relationship to the case, and for the tape recording voice recognition. And would you start here, please?
Bruce Moore, Variance, 729 Navajo. Correct.
Thank you.
Dermatology, 1011
Thank you.
Dennis and Mary Cooley, 708 Apache Run.
Okay. Gentlemen?
I'm legal counsel, Najib McClure, Burns, Ochner, Greenberger, here as legal counsel to Macedonia Retail Management LLC. There are a number of variances here tonight.
Okay.
A number of representatives.
Mike Sullivan, Albright USA developer.
Scott Flew, I'm from Dermatology.
Mitch Harvey, Stonefield Engineering.
Jason Hart, Paddle Studio.
Thank you very much, everybody. The hearing will be conducted in accordance with the provisions of the Ohio Sunshine Law. The notice of the hearing was duly published in a newspaper in general circulation in the city of Macedonia. The notice is available for review upon request at the building department. The rules of the board require an affirmative vote of 3 members in order to pass regardless of the number of members present at the hearing. The hearing is conducted in an informal manner to review the evidence and to respond to questions. However, there is an outline of steps that will be taken in order. The appellant does not have to be present for the board to hear its case as publicized. Each case number and appeal request will be announced as its turn arrives. First case is case 659, Bruce Moore of Navajo Trail, and the appeal form is in order. Is there any correspondence from notified adjacent property owners, Rachel?
No.
Any correspondence regarding the case, unsubscribed?
No.
Okay. Will the zoning inspector please state the city's position?
The Board of Zoning and Building Code Appeals will hear a request for a variance at 729 Navajo Trail. The variance is to section 1163.02H2. The maximum area of a detached private garage shall not exceed 600 square feet. The applicant is requesting a variance of 120 square feet to construct a 720 square foot detached garage.
Does the board have any questions of the city? The appellate for case 659, do you have anything to say? Would you like to speak?
That's us?
Yes.
Okay. We live.
Mrs. Moore?
No.
He's
He's the Moores, we're the Grueys. We
Okay.
live directly behind him.
Okay.
Okay. We just had some questions as to, is this going to be for business purposes? No. This is for storage?
I have two convertibles, a motorcycle, and my high school charger. And the extra couple feet lets it all fit there. Right now I rent buildings. I have one in Brooksville, and I have one in Twinsburg. And it costs me potentially $1,000 a month just to store my vehicle.
Are you taking trees down?
I'm probably going to take one, possibly two.
You have a wicked tree next
Yes.
to Charlotte?
It'll be the one on the corner that's by Charlotte,
Okay.
right at the corner where the driveway stops. And depending on the cost, it'll be the one back in your, if you were sitting on your porch, your right corner. My far left.
How close to the ditch or the culvert or whatever, the stream? How close is it?
I don't think you have the information. I'm going to be either 12 or 15 feet off of that,
Okay.
which is legally what.
Okay. I don't know how far away you can be from the culvert we have in the backyard.
Well, we haven't heard from you, so why don't the appellate speak to us, let us know, and then if there's any more questions, we'll have. I thought you were the owners.
No,
Go ahead. You can come up here if you like.
Sure. They're my neighbors, correct?
Yes. And you're more,
I'm Bruce.
okay, and you're more than welcome to give us your presentation on why you want to build this and everything.
I would just like to to be able to keep my cars on my property. I've been there a long time. I'm happy there. I raised 3 kids there. I would love to retire there and quite possibly die there. Because of, I'm really not asking for that huge of a building. With that, I can fit everything I want in there. It's purely storage. And it saves me a significant amount of money versus keeping them off the property as I get closer to my retirement thoughts. And if I can't do this, then I'm probably gonna have to move to somewhere I can. And as I said, I raised 3 kids here. I've been here most of my life. I'd love to stay here.
Is this a picture of the garage?
That's one of the garages that were an example. We were talking with the city's architect about the difference between, with construction, as you well know, everyone in this building knows what construction is about. That one is a very attractive metal one, and we wanted to run that through your architect and see what her opinion was.
Okay.
And then if not, the second one is a wooden one. I just want to be a good neighbor. So I gave you both. The one in the packet is wooden, that one is metal.
Okay.
I just figured I'd give you an
So there's one
opportunity.
through planning commission, everything on the building, whether it's a steel building or wood? Is this brought up yet?
No, this is not going before the planning commission.
Okay.
And it won't.
Can I speak?
Yeah, and Mr. Chairman, it will not.
Okay.
The way this entire situation started is I called the building department and we had a discussion about costs of metal buildings versus wooden buildings. And I apologize for not knowing his name, but he suggested, I sent him, I think it was you.
Chris.
It was to Chris. I sent a picture of a metal building because I said, he said it has to have certain standards.
Right.
So I sent it to him, he forwarded it to the architect, and that's the beginning of the conversation. The size came, and that's how we ended up here. I'll gladly build with them too, I think that's a very nice building too, so.
This is just a generic copy of the building.
That would be the actual one I would buy, well, the hope is I would buy that one out of Texas, that's where that one's from.
Yeah, okay, but this is not sitting on your property.
No, it is not, no, that's a sample for the city's architect to see. Some of these look very generic, and like I said, I don't want an ugly building, I want it to look like my house, and that's what I'm aiming for.
In either wood or steel building, it's gonna be 120 foot square variance is what you're asking.
That's what I'm asking, yeah.
On this, drawing here,
Sure.
I take it the garage door is going to be here,
Yes,
so this is your drive.
right now you can, the driveway stops here,
Uh-huh,
so I'm gonna connect that.
and this is all gonna be a pad of concrete, or?
It's probably gonna be selective, it's gonna open up to it, but not be the whole way to it, if that makes sense. The driveway, it's probably not proportionally correct. With that space there, it'll open up and open into, the driveway will connect to it. That'll be a 2-car garage, they'll open to that, fin to this, and they'll.
Any other questions, guys?
So how big is the lot? Do you know? Is it the standard?
It's, I would say it's standard, I think there are 100 something by 200-ish. I apologize for not knowing that. I didn't go to the Summit counties, it's a standard one.
Okay.
So it'd be about a half acre or so.
Oh, it's a half acre, yeah. It's actually a little bigger, but it's still standard Macedonia. If you know where Navajo is, mine's not any bigger than anyone else. It's not a corner lot, it's,
So I have one back to the city. So if it's a garage, he's going to have a paved driveway all the way?
Yes, and I emailed
We have-
Mr. Moore.
Okay, I'm just making sure
It'll
that,
be connected as immediately as I can.
right. Well, I know that this variance is only for size. That's the only
This
thing
is
we're dealing
just
with.
to add an extra 4 feet wide is what we're not.
So let me ask you this, which way is the 4 foot going? And that's kind of strange.
If you enter the garage, it's to the right, well, it makes it 24 instead of 20.
So it would be going towards the property line or towards the center of the
It'll be going
property?
towards my property, towards the inside of my property.
Okay.
I'm gonna be off the property line, that's gonna move 4 feet this way.
This way here.
There's pictures of.
Yeah, I've got the picture. I'm just,
Yeah.
you're not getting any closer to the property.
No,
So
no, I'm
if this
still-
wasn't granted, you would be still that far away from the property?
I'm
'Cause
not
you're
moving
with-
the building.
Okay, you're just going into the middle of your property, 4 foot,
And 12 foot is code, correct?
10 feet.
10 feet minimum.
So that answers your one question that you were asking about, okay?
But-
And actually from the back, I'm sorry.
It says 16.
I'm 16 feet from.
If they're directly behind you.
They just marked the property line, I assume you had surveyed.
Right.
I'm actually, after your post went in, I'm more than 16 feet off the line. I didn't know that exact number.
Okay.
So I'm probably close to 20 feet into my property.
Okay.
If that is a question you have.
Anything else? I'm gonna take some questions from the audience if we have any.
I don't have any more right now.
Any other questions that you have that aren't answered from us or?
So is it gonna be out of steel or wood, or is that to be determined?
It's gonna be determined, and that's through the city with the codes, depending on what he chooses and what the codes are.
Okay.
So it's either or.
Okay, this work to begin soon, in the spring?
I'd love to have it done this winter, ASAP, if this works out. I don't know what I'm building yet, so I don't, I can't,
Sure.
But I do have contractors hopefully lined up. This is late in the year to hook them now, but
Sure.
I had conversations with people who are trying to do it this season.
Okay.
Now, you plan on taking down 2, possibly 3 trees.
One for sure, possibly two. They're big.
Is
old
there
oaks.
other foliage in there to buffer
We have
We
a
have
pretty good
pine
spread
trees
between us.
replanted when we moved.
Okay, so there is a foliage area in there as a buffer area.
As well as the creek that runs through there.
Yeah,
The creek runs through there.
Okay.
and we have pines on our side.
Okay.
And there's another pine that's gonna remain, the little pine in the corner is gonna stay.
Are there any other further questions from the board? The chair will entertain a motion.
I'll move that we grant the variance as requested.
I second. Will the secretary, recording secretary, please call roll call for the vote?
Mr. Pilato?
Yes.
Mr. Ferraro?
Yes.
Mr. Shelko?
Yes.
Mr. Iafreda?
Yes.
Case 659 has passed. And we thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate it. I thank you too.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you, gentlemen.
Take care.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to go on to case 660. And the applicant, is there any correspondence from notified adjacent property owners?
No.
Any unsolicited correspondence?
No.
Okay. Will the zoning inspector please state the city's position?
The Board of Zoning and Building Code Appeals will hear a request for a variance at 1011 East Aurora Road. The variance is to section 117111E2A. Parking and access drives shall be set back from the street right-of-way a minimum of 20 feet. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the setback from the right-of-way to 10 feet 8 inches.
Mr. Chairman, this case came before the Planning Commission on Monday. The Planning Commission granted final approval to the project pending the action of the Board of Zoning Appeals and certain other administrative details.
Does the board have any questions to the city?
Nope.
Dick, anything?
No, I just, and the reason for the variance,
Wait a minute, we didn't get their presentation yet. We just seeing if there's any questions of the city. Then we'll get their presentation.
gotcha.
Well, the board will have your presentation now, please.
Well, I'm Ann Corvold from Ellis Architects. And we're putting on an addition on the existing building.
Is that what you've provided?
We provided the plans and the new site plan. And with that addition, we would like to add additional parking in the front so that our tenant spaces or future tenant spaces inside the building, it would be easy to access from front also, instead of having the customers have to park in the back. So we also have this image here showing the adjacent property with parking in the front.
You're specifying Gordon Food Service is what you're specifying?
And they also have the same retaining wall that we're planning on using and fence along the front of the parking area towards the street. And we went and added some plants that the planning commission, they suggested along the fence.
Practically, we are replicating what Gordon has.
Okay. And the reason is for more parking spaces is what basically you're going for?
The addition is 4,000 square foot, and just to park in front of the building is 4 spaces. And I might have 3 tenants, it's just not enough.
Is this going to be medical building also?
I don't know. don't have any.
How many different occupancy or tenants are gonna be in this building?
Depends on what's available and how much they want. Now, with the
Well, I
main
mean-
building, the main building has this office, and they took 2 thirds of the building, and there's 1/3 that's still vacant, having this space to, if I have one tenant that I think that I just would fit this would be great, but not, depends on who's interested.
Anything else?
So I have 2 questions. Do we know if Gordon Food Supply had a variance to be able to do what they did?
Yes, in 2013, it looks like.
Okay. Oh, it's in there?
7-foot variance, so.
The only difference, and I'll let you do your next question, okay?
Okay.
I understand, I read the variance and everything that was given.
Okay.
I don't, well, you might have been on board.
Yeah, I might have.
Okay, but the rest of us weren't. But anyhow, I see your point, okay? But you're not comparing apples to apples and oranges to oranges. Gordon's Food Service building is on their far east side of their property. So they have parking up front in the back there, the far east and north, actually, on their
I
property.
missed that, huh?
Your building, which is here, correct? All right, it's basically almost center. All right, so I understand the variance was given to Gordon Food Service, okay? But I want the rest of the board to look at this. That's my,
This used to be a bank building, it never came to their mind that, actually my land is bigger than his land, but he's kind of design it in a better way because he know what he want to do.
right.
The bank, First Merit and Huntington end up merging together and they made this branch, so we are just trying to utilize the space and.
We understand.
benefit of it.
I just want to make sure the board sees what I'm saying. I'm sorry. This is,
And
This is
the area variance is to.
right here, see everything here?
Oh,
Okay, this is exactly what they want to put here,
yeah,
okay?
yeah.
So,
This will give us 14 parking space. Hopefully, you guys, honor us the variance and have the chance to attract
so the question,
Go ahead.
yeah, the second question just is, with this variance, it gives them the ability to add enough parking spots that meets the standard for that building? Because we've often had a lot of questions about parking per square footage with the building, so.
I'll answer that. What? You can answer it if you'd like.
Do you know do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, every building, there has to be so many parking spots, so much parking per square footage of the building.
Well, I'm going to read you something from Brian France, the city planner.
Okay, all right,
Okay.
if that will answer it, I appreciate
Should
it.
answer your question and everybody else's question. The off-street parking for the 8,159 square foot medical office building is 33 spaces and 45 are provided. So 45 spaces are there right now, and technically by code, only 33 are needed, okay? A required 20-foot setback from right of way when parking is located in the front yard. A new row of 14 spaces is proposed along Route 82 frontage with only 10-foot setback. A 30-inch retaining wall is proposed along the northern edge of the proposed parking now, and no details are provided. Moreover, new light poles are proposed in the row of parking. By code, these spaces are unnecessary because there's enough parking already provided in the expanded building and do not comply with the setback requirements. Eliminate the row of parking along Route 82. Does not require the additional parking and does not comply with the setback requirements.
But that's for medical office. I don't have a tenant. I don't know who's the tenant is.
Brian Franz, if I'm not mistaken, is going by square footage, size of the building, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so whether it's medical,
For medical, but what doesn't have a restaurant or anything else?
the same difference.
Oh,
Am I right?
I think it's different, no?
No.
It's supposed to be
need so many parking spots per seating area, seating customers.
Per square foot of building based on the type of building or the occupancy of the building.
Okay.
Right. Right.
So he took his like this, if it is all went to a medical use, but I don't think it will be that case. I might have insurance agents, I might have somebody, I might have drive it through like juice, a guy was interested like to drive through juice place, you know, using. So
Well, as
it
Chris
might be
stated,
different.
it's per square foot,
Yeah.
okay, of what the building is, doesn't matter what's in it, correct? Am I answering him right, or would you want to answer the question?
Parking is based on square footage and the occupancy type for that building.
Type. So if there was a restaurant in there, would it be more parking spots?
I'd have to look and see it under 117116.
So, I guess what I'm hearing is, it depends on what the tenant is.
Yes, and as of right now, like I said, or Brian says, our city planner, I'll let you read it if you want to.
Yeah.
You have it, right? Okay, that there's 33 spaces, or 45 spaces right now, all right, and 33 is the code.
So he meets the minimum, but he's asking for above the minimum.
Right.
And the question is, at the convenience, like, who gonna go, like a customer gonna go to the back of the building to park and go to the front?
Well,
It's kind of gonna make it very unattractive for a tenant to decide to take the space.
Well, a couple questions I have, okay, or I guess one is, you have the building setback,
Yeah.
okay, instead of up front, exactly what the building that exists there, okay? Aesthetically, I mean, wouldn't it look better if you brought it right to the front and have your building? Then you could have parking on the back side of the building and parking on the front side of the building. Okay, so instead of 14 spots, you might have 8 or 10 spaces. Okay, without doing this. Number two, if I'm right, this is your existing canopy.
Yeah.
Could I have that there, just so I can show everybody? This is your existing canopy. Correct? And you're going to save that, and you're going to build behind it, on it, and put walls up around it. Is that what I'm looking at? Okay. So if you built behind it, you could also build in front of it if you really wanted to, on both sides. Okay. And I guess my next question is, Chris, there's enough room on the west side of this building, new building, and the parking lot next door for parking, if they put parking there, correct?
I didn't evaluate any of the parking. I think that was all done by planning commission.
Break the setback. We moved it over,
What do you mean break the setback?
front here and setback. So we can move it forward because of the front here and setback. We would pass that.
My second question was, is parking on this side of the whole building?
Well, if that's, I think, 20 feet, so if there's gonna be car this way and car this way, there's no way we can park there. It's gonna be one.
Well, you don't have vehicles parking this way.
I think what you're saying is we need another variance.
Yeah.
To move the building forward.
Right.
Can I ask a quick question of the city? Do you know the intent, the original intent of that ordinance? Was it just for curb appeal?
You mean to not have the front row of the parking?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty typical with buildings to have I think in the era that these were built, to have a deeper landscaped area to go ahead and not necessarily disguise, but to accent the building more so than have the paved area.
I see. Thank you.
Mhm.
And like I said, we weren't on the board at the time. I know they granted variance at Gordon Food Service, okay? I mean, where their building is located versus where this building is located, I guess, is way two different areas of the property, correct?
We are now trying to patch what is existing. I cannot move the building forward or backward. I can play with the parking lot a little bit without
I
We understand, but we're
I-
looking
I
at the
go-
codes,
I'm here
okay, the
every day to
buildings,
walk my
okay?
dogs. I know
If
exactly
your
what you're
building
talking
was set back like Gordon Food Services was, okay, and I would figure that's the reason why the board approved the variance last time, all right? Versus your building sitting here and coming up here, 10 feet from Route 82.
It's still
Okay.
gonna look nice, and it's gonna be safe for the public. It's just that, it's very important for future tenants to be able to rent the space.
So I walk my dogs here every day, so I go by here every single day, so I know exactly the property.
Yeah.
The parking lot is much lower than Route 82, just like Gordon Food Supply, correct?
Gordon is, because the street is going down like this, so they are a little bit, mine, I'm thinking about 2 roads maybe, just like.
Right, but the issue is they're not gonna be,
So,
cars coming into there, the headlights are not gonna be going into the street, and there's gonna be a buffer, like you said.
There's a landscape buffer, a fence, and a retaining wall.
it's a retaining wall.
So do you have any idea how tall the retaining wall is gonna be?
Said 30 inches is what it said.
Yeah, because
Okay.
mine is lower, it might be two separate lots.
Okay.
It's not as high as Gordon, because
Okay.
the street goes down, so mine
Oh, I
might
see.
be lower wall, not that is.
Yeah, the plan shows a 30-inch high retaining wall.
Yeah,
Thank you.
so that's what, that.
I think going back to your question, maybe, it's a shallower retaining wall than Gordon Foods, correct?
Okay.
And so is there, it looks like on this drawing, there's maybe landscaping plan for the front of that as well? Like bushes and things like that as well?
The retaining wall probably was this way.
Just to make it look nice and more, doesn't look sleek.
Okay. Any other questions?
One more. Actually, maybe two more. So the building setback for your building, is it the same as the Gordon Foods building? Do you know the answer to that?
I'm not sure, but
No, not even close.
I mean, it should be the same.
It looks close in the map, but
They have more parking back here versus their landscape, but go ahead, I'm sorry.
My property line is the middle of the street and with easement to the right of way. And the
Right.
same thing in the back here, that's all my property line. My property line is like this.
yeah. I guess my question is do we know is the setback of this building
It
to the
should
street
be
is similar?
the same, because this is,
I mean, it looks, if you draw a line, it looks close.
Well, they said, yeah. But once again, like I said, we're not comparing apples to apples, oranges to oranges here, okay? Gordon Food Service building is back here, and we're tucked in the corner. This building's in the center of the property, okay? And as far as Brian France is concerned, there's enough parking spaces for this operation.
I'll just say something.
Sure, that's why you're here.
Okay. I spoke with my boss too, and he agreed that it's not going to be appealing for tenants at all to want to rent the space if there isn't any parking. And that, that's why I wanted to come here first before we finish the whole set of drawings to be sure that this is something that you wanted to invest in.
But you're not sure how many tenants are gonna be in there? You're not sure how many, 1, 4? I mean,
Well,
there's nothing
there
out there.
is-
I don't put that much of investment, and after everything, and I have a tenant that told me, no, this is no good, I need more parking space. And then I come to you to ask for variance, I said, no, we cannot do this, we cannot do that. So I would rather have all the documentation up and ready. And actually, I have a plan, get the building, and depends on the tenant, if they want the space, I will do it. If they don't, I will just hold on that. But the idea is, I don't.
Back up one second. If you get a tenant that wants to do it.
They don't need any other space in the front, I will hold on the part, addition, the parking lot. But if I have it the other way around, I already have the approval, and I don't need to go through the approval process again.
So you're telling us that it's gonna depend on the tenant, whether you put those parking spaces in or not?
Most probably I will do the parking spot, but if the tenant really don't need it, then I might put it as a plan B.
Can I ask a quick question?
Man, we're here all night, buddy, go ahead.
You may not be able to answer this, but I'm gonna try anyway. Is it typical that we would grant a variance before knowing the type of business that would require that type of variance? Does that make sense?
You grant a variance not knowing the type of business?
Yeah. Is it typical? Has this happened
Well-
in the past?
Well, I would think that the business that has the building is his ownership.
Right.
That's the business.
Right.
His tenants is a different case. So it might be more variances, might be signs, but
Sure.
the building itself is his, so he's the owner. I think
Matt's
that's,
question is they're adding on, that building stops there, am I right?
The purpose of, the purpose of the building is not yet known. Is that typical?
It is going to be just a show. I'm not finishing anything from inside. It's just the walls, roof,
Yes.
and parking lot, and the side concrete. Because I don't, as I said, I don't know what kind of plumbing, what kind of walls they need from inside.
Right.
It's going to be a show only.
Okay.
see, but
Yeah, Matt, to answer your question, I've seen it both ways. Where people are building a speculation building, they want to be certain that they have what they can when they would need it. But a variance runs with the property. It remains with the property. So if it was granted today and 2 years from now, he wants to enact it, he's able to do that.
Okay.
And if the doctor sells that building to somebody else, the variance is still with the property. It stays with the property in perpetuity.
Okay.
so I guess my question is, if you didn't get the variance, would you look at other options? Or, because to me, like I say, I walk in that area a lot and see this building, and it's wonderful to see that there's the dentist in there now because it's actually being used. The chances of, right now, this canopy covers 4 lanes of what were a drive-through for a bank. And it's not appealing, it's not attractive, it's not bringing anything in. Whereas if you do this, at least there's a chance we're gonna get something there, it's gonna beautify the area, so. So what I'm saying is, what would you, if we weren't able to grant a variance, is there a different use, or you're just gonna see what happens here, or what's your thoughts?
You said plan B, what is your plan B?
The plan B is maybe just leave it as is, because as I said, I'm not going to be spending more than $500,000 in something that I'm not sure that I can get business return on investment as a businessman. It's just going to stay like that.
And as the architect, this is the only way we could come
We've been
up.
working on it since 2018.
Another problem.
Yeah.
This plan been approved in the end of 2018, but at that time I just bought the building and I was not sure if somebody gonna knock the whole building out and maybe build another restaurant or something. So I hold it in it. I didn't do anything after I get approved. But now I already know I have a tenant that is a long-term tenant. I know that nothing gonna change, and so I just need to invest on what I already have.
In these plans, I see 4 doors, one on each corner. Those are your entrances
Yes.
and exits?
Yes, the main entrance is gonna be over here, and it's gonna replicate the entrance on this side, and there's gonna be another door here. This is just the by code I have to have. For if there is 2 suites here, I have to have the back door. So like if it's 2 suite, if it's 2 tenants here, it's gonna be the front and the back, front and back.
And there was no option you looked at for parking over here on this side of the building, on the west side?
We would have put it there if it would fit, but there wasn't enough space.
Even with the variance?
in case you wanted a drive-through window for if you see tenant possible, decent tenant, that would be not a good option for them.
I tried even to park my car because I had this idea before. It's very impractical. I put my car sideways as you were indicated, and I drove by. It's not gonna work.
Mr. Chairman, can I make
I thought about that.
Sorry.
Like when I just go to the to utilize that parking by parking there, but it's not practical.
Can I make a suggestion? Because I'm listening to this discussion, and I'm not a voting member, obviously, but the variance request is for an area variance, which is you need to demonstrate practical difficulty. And in this case, I don't see where practical difficulty variance could be granted based on speculation. But I also don't think that the board should deny the request at this point. I think it would be prudent, Doctor, maybe to withdraw the request at this point, and once you find that you may need this, you can come back to this board, show that practical difficulty.
I cannot do that. As I said, I cannot invest that much money, and then I'm in the air. I cannot do that.
Well, honestly, again, like I said, the board would, this is an area variance, they would grant that variance based upon a practical difficulty. And right now, there is no practical difficulty because it's based on speculation. Do you know what I mean?
And there's more parking spaces than needed codified, correct?
Yeah. That's based on what Mr. Brian said, that if it's medical, but it might not be a medical office, it might be actually, I might be even lacking more, I need more space.
I think what you're worried about is if you do put this in and you do need the parking, that won't get that variance granted years later, and then your investment won't work out. And then that's what he's more worried about. It's not like right now, it's like for the future.
Well, but again, not to belabor the discussion, but if he puts in a food service there, and the main entrance is going to be facing, was it south? Well, then you wouldn't want the people who are going to this food service to walk from the back to the front. You've created a practical difficulty. You don't have sufficient parking in the front to go ahead and access. So at that point, because it takes time. I know you're going to have a white building in the inside, but you're still going to have to bring in plans, and you're going to have to create the format or the layout for that use. So you're going to design the use when you get the user. So at that point, you have an architect that's going to have to put plans together. It's got to go through a process where it needs plan review. Depending upon what that use is going to be, it may require conditional use, just like the medical facility that you have. It requires conditional use. It requires a hearing by the planning commission. Yes. So there may be steps in there where you'll have time to go ahead and come back to this board and demonstrate that you have a practical difficulty, giving them better ammunition in which to grant the variance. One of the things I think that this board does not want to do is grant something that you may not need. And again, you sell the building, you never develop it, and somebody else comes in there and that variance is theirs because it stays with the property.
And we don't know who we sell the building to.
I'm not selling it to anybody anyway.
But also, Dr., if I could just finish, the board needs to qualify the way that they would grant a variance. So based on, if they would grant this variance at this point, anybody could come in and say, well, I may do that in this building and I might need that, so can you give me something that I may need? And it's really, it's inappropriate for the board to react to that. They need to have something concrete to grasp on. So when our council members say, how did you manage to do that? Well, he said he was going to do this. but he didn't know for sure. You cannot tell a legislator something like that.
I don't think I'm gonna get any tenant based on this drawing without the parking lot.
But you can always tell them that you've spoken with this board about it, and you would need to go ahead and demonstrate a practical difficulty to do that, and their tenancy might create that for you. Doctor, what I'm afraid of is that they may deny the variance, and then coming back to have it reenacted ends up being a little more of a difficult issue. It's not like you could just keep on coming back and asking for the same thing again. You always have to show a practical difficulty with an area variance.
This is a difficult. I'm adding 4,000 square foot, and I'm having extra 4 parking spot. That's not difficulty. I'm adding 4,000. I'm doubling the size of my building, and I'm adding 4 parking spot.
No,
how that works?
Doctor, you have 12 spots in the front there.
That's for this side of the building, but
yeah, we're
this
talking
side, this is 1.5 acre property. What kind of business we're gonna go through that, especially in the winter time, and go to the other side of the property? Yeah. That's very far.
Doctor, do you understand the issue is a parking setback requirement? And what's happening is that the spaces in the very front are invading that setback. They encroach upon that. You're required to have that setback, but the way that building sits now with the parking conforms. It's a conforming space. You want to take something and you want a waiver of the law to go ahead and put that parking in the very front against where it faces the street. And that is in conflict with the code that exists. But when somebody wants to, when somebody needs a waiver to that law, they have to demonstrate that they need a specific reason to waiver. Do you know what I mean? And having a restaurant in there and having the main entrance on the south side is an absolute practical difficulty. People don't want to walk very far when they go to a restaurant. It's just a fact. You know what I mean? So what I'm trying to convince you of is that rather than have the variance denied at this point, withdraw the variance. You can come back to this board at that point and then show your case, or even between now and then, try to make a little bit better case. But they can't do something on speculation. I want you to understand that you cannot grant a wavering of a law, and it is a law. You can't grant a wavering of a law based on speculation. It needs to be based on fact and proven fact. And that was actually, it's part of a Supreme Court ruling that took place in 1985, when the Supreme Court handed down 7 tests to boards like these in order to determine whether a variance creates a practical difficulty.
What if they deny it then?
But no, I was going to say, but a lot of times it's all tentative. I mean, the tenant says, unless you do this and you get these parking spots, I'm not coming in. That happens to us a lot. And then we're looking at it to say, okay, well, this is improved because this and this and this are happening. And I'm with you. I would rather be proactive, but we can't do it in the legal part, because then every time somebody comes in and says, well, I might build a shed in the backyard and I want to build a...
This, or maybe I'll do that.
Yeah, so
we can't.
That because, so, I mean...
Since I just said what I said, like it's a plan B. My intention was, I want to have all plans set. Eventually, actually, I already was talking to the guy who did the sequencing for me, to let him come and give the estimate for that addition in the front. So I am gonna get it done, not speculation, because it's gonna be all messy now, you know, and I want the whole. It's just gonna be hard for me. if you are a tenant, you're gonna come and you're gonna see no parking lot. He's not, they just have their plans, they want to get through the plans, bring it to the city, and within 3-4 months get started. We're gonna go through the process, and especially if it's in the winter, to wait till the summer and then go to the city and start the process. It's just.
We can totally, we can empathize with you. I mean, we totally wish, but legally, it's going to be hard for us to say, because it just sets the precedent that anybody that has an idea or has a concept to bring it to us, then we like you said, we can't go on concepts. If you had a tenant that said either I'll be in or won't be in if this is done, then that creates a whole different set of circumstances.
Do you have any potential tenants right now? Is that you said yes before and then you went back and forth? I mean, that's something, if you come into the board, come back to the board and say, look, we're having a restaurant, okay? Or a pharmacy or whatever, okay? Then we can go from there.
I have all what I told the insurance lady that she wants to bring all her people in. I have a juicing place, but again, they don't put in something on paper.
Well, you probably have about 90 days of build at this point on the building, right? I mean, by the time you mobilize, you've got the walls to build, the construction part, and get the exterior shell together. You probably have 90 to 120 days at that point, and then you're going to probably have another 60 days from that point to bring in the plans for the tenant build out. So you're looking at probably 6 months down the road. So, and what I'm saying is that rather than walk out of here with a no, go ahead and withdraw this, or ask this board to continue this to a later date. No, not table it. Let them ask. They need to ask either to withdraw it or to continue it. And then you can come back when you have some concrete plans and talk to the board. You've been through the tough part already. You've gone through the planning commission. You've gotten final plan approval from that planning commission. They're a two-stop trip. This is a one-stop trip. So you know what I mean? Like I'm just telling you this, you know, as I'm a resident of the city here, and I think I'd really rather not see this board give you no for an answer or a non-approval. I think that you have some variables out there that you have to consider. Plus, you have some time. So, asking to continue the variance, you can come back at a later date, and again, it's a 30-day lead time to get the approval. So you're going to have a pretty good handle on what's going to happen in that building well before you're going to know that you need the variance. You know what I mean?
The idea is I don't invest all this money on something is not guaranteed that I'm gonna get.
Yeah, well, you're going to market the building. You've got to market what you're going to do. And again, I'm not a real estate person by any stretch of the imagination, but you've got a site plan, and that site plan has been approved.
Nobody is renting on this on paper. They want to see actual.
Well, you've got a plan right there. That plan's been approved by the planning commission, and you have elevations that have been approved by the planning commission.
I already have it approved 2 years ago, and they want me to go through all this again in much difficult requirement.
Well, and Doctor, that's a whole nother situation.
They didn't ask me for zoning then.
No,
they just gave me the approval.
Doctor, and so nobody would walk away here thinking that something's wrong. That was a preliminary approval, and a preliminary approval is only good for a year and exceeded that year. Yes. So we, on behalf of the city, did what we had to do because it conforms to the code.
Yes.
We're not here to say no to our businesses, believe me, okay? We like to try to help in any way we can, all right? Bob has made a great point. I mean, we can have continuance on this if you would like. I'd make it easier for you instead of taking a vote, or we could take a vote. So I guess we could leave it up to you.
Yeah, the problem is a year from now, I don't know when this is gonna happen. Might be different members and they're gonna have different opinions.
But not so much.
Now, like there were
a year from now, we don't know if you're going to put those parking spots in because it depends on who you get as tenants.
But a year from now, whoever's on the board should be considering the same legal aspects of the request.
Doesn't
So,
matter if the names are faces.
right, oh, they're supposed to be
We work with the
kidding,
same
right, the need and what's different and why. That's what
If
they're
there's a
supposed,
practical difficulty, like Bob explained, doesn't matter who's sitting up here.
right, that should be considered.
Okay?
What is this difficulty mean? What
That,
I just need to understand this
The
difficulty.
business needs to be like a real concrete, like, business in there.
Is it a Dairy Queen? Or is it a barber shop? Is
Or
it
they can't.
CVS?
Give it out. If it's not like a real business, real space, they can't.
We know you want the building, and as Bob said,
Until it's real, they can't.
Unless it's real problem.
Yeah, real problem.
And then you might say yes, you might say no.
if there's a practical difficulty, there should be no problem.
Yeah.
It's just
If they withdraw, do they have to file a new?
Yeah, you need to file again. I think it would be better to ask the board to continue this because you need more time, to create your consideration.
How long that takes, like, to continue?
That's up to you.
A year?
I think it's, we've had them where you can't go over a year, I think, or something, isn't it?
I don't know that we actually have something specific that discusses the continuance.
Okay.
And if there is something with that, doctor, we'll contact you and we'll do what we need. Right.
Build your shell. Build your shell, find a tenant, and then tell them, we can get you what you need, and you feel comfortable about it.
As long as there's a practical difficulty.
The city planning for the parking lot, the parking. Or that's been approved
That has already been approved.
Okay.
Yeah, that part of it's been approved. But what they said is that they left it up to this board to determine if it's appropriate. But they've approved that. Why don't you call me tomorrow?
I will call, okay.
Okay, doctor.
All right, thank you.
So wait, do we need some kind of a motion or something?
I think if you want, why don't you or your representative could just go ahead and send me an email that you'd like to go ahead and continue, if that would be okay. That way we have something in writing, we'll attach it to whatever you have. But this meeting is recorded, so it'll actually be on the.
So what will we put in the minutes?
So in the minutes, I'm gonna state right now that on case 660, thanks. See, why can't I fill in that paperwork? Sure. There it is. Anyhow, case 660 will be continuance, okay? Until we hear back from you and you get further details, okay? And also, you wanted to send Bob email tomorrow?
Yeah, and we'll actually attach that to the minutes. So
okay?
Yeah, something memorialized.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Have a
Thank
good
you.
evening.
Thank you.
And we got a brief, real quick potty break.
Yeah, it's okay. All right, so let me get this out of the way. Thank you, both of you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
You guys moving up for a reason? You moving up for a reason? Or?
Yeah.
Give us 1 second.
Oh, absolutely.
Come on up. Set it up. That's perfect.
There's a number of variances that we have, but they're all issues related to site.
Okay.
But we still have to take them one at a time. They usually overlap, but
So should we do a presentation on each one, or can we just present the project as a whole, discuss all 5 variances, and then we can just discuss as soon as we go?
Why don't you do all 5
Yeah.
at once, and then what'll happen is for each one, if we have a question, you can go back, point out to where we're at, and what we need, and whoever needs to talk, we'll talk at that time.
The only requirement is that you have to go back.
Well, I drove it all the way down here, I need some work out.
When you get that email, how you put it together to catch it to the minutes? I'll shoot you. Yeah, shoot, maybe shoot everybody.
Recorded television.
Good. Okay.
We have to go through our little formality
Go ahead.
first, so before
Give
we
me
have your
1 second. Once you
presentation.
get set up, you let me know.
And then Sam's got to go through his steps and then spiel, and then we'll,
All right, so we're going to go through all the cases right now, is what you're telling us, correct?
I'll do a presentation of the whole, the project as a whole.
Okay,
I'll list off all the variances, and if you guys want to get into the nitty-gritty of each one.
that's what we're going to do.
Okay.
All right. We're going to go get a presentation on case 661, 662, 663, 664, 651. And then we'll go from there. As far as you want to just wait? Or you want to?
Either way.
Yeah, let's wait. You do the presentation, then we'll go through each case, okay? So right now, the appellate is going to.
well, no, don't, we need to hear if there's anything solicited and unsolicited. You go through
That's
the.
what I'm saying.
Oh, from outside.
Oh.
And then,
Is there any unsolicited
No,
correspondence from anybody?
no.
okay.
Thank you. Sorry. Gentlemen, when you're ready, we'll go through this.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. My name is Majid Makhlouf. I'm outside legal counsel for the project. And as I explained to you just before we began the meeting, the president and CEO of the company wanted to be here and address the board. He has a newborn and asked that he could address the board quickly via phone. There is a quick presentation that he put together. I will caution you that there are pictures that are somewhat graphic in the end. This is a dermatology center, so it's not for the faint of heart, but I'll leave these to the board. And his name is Max Kuganik. He's on my phone. I dialed him in. He's ready to go whenever the board is.
We're ready. Let's hear it.
Max, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, and members of the board. I'm so grateful for the opportunity, and I really feel so terrible for not being with you there in person, but my wife and my newborn baby are really grateful to you, as am I. So thank you for the opportunity just to take a few minutes. I just wanted to give you, as you're thinking about this project, a little bit of background in terms of what's actually going to happen in this building and the services that are being provided. I think it might be helpful to you as you think about the project. And just understand it a little bit better. So thank you for that opportunity. I have a few slides that I share with you. I'm going to go through them very, very quickly. Ultimately, just from a high level, we are a cancer-focused dermatology practice, and we're very, very proud of providing the very highest quality care and cutting-edge care in the way that we practice. On page 2, these are just a few slides about skin cancer. There's 7 million cases of all cancers in the United States every year. 5.5 of them are skin cancer. So skin cancer is by far the most common type of cancer. Not only is it the most common, but it's also the fastest growing type of cancer over on the right side of the page. Melanoma is growing by 110%. So this is a really common thing that we deal with. In terms of dermatological care, which is where you go for skin cancer, you have to wait longer to see a dermatologist than any other specialty. So you can see pretty much any kind of doctor faster than you can see a dermatologist. That's because there's not a lot of dermatologists. This is particularly a problem in Ohio. Now, if I go to slide 4, you can see you have to wait longer to see a dermatologist in Ohio than in the rest of the country. And there's a lot less dermatologists per capita than in the rest of the country. And that's because dermatologists are really, there are very few of them, but they get paid a lot of money. They can go wherever they want. Many people are, most of them are, there's plenty of derms in Miami and in New York and San Francisco, not as much where I live and not as many where you live. And we've specifically targeted Macedonia because this is a particular problem in your community, south of Cleveland, Akron, Camden, and so we think we can really, there's a real need here we can serve. On slide 5, so I mentioned before that you have to wait a long time to see a dermatologist. That's not good for patients. When you think about it, left side of the page, this is just talking about melanoma. For melanoma, if you have melanoma, in as little as 60 days, you can metastasize to the lymph nodes and your life expectancy goes down to 65%. And then in another 60 days, you can metastasize to other organs and your life expectancy goes down to 25%. So it's really important to be, if you see something on your skin and you don't know what it is, to see a dermatologist quickly. Today, most people in the country, when they have a skin issue, a dermatological issue, they see a primary care or urgent care provider. That's what it says on the right side of page 5. And when they see a non-dermatologist, they get the wrong diagnosis about half the time. So you really want to see a dermatologist for a skin-related issue. On slide 6, these talks about all the services we provide. So general dermatology, that means, hey, I got a spot on my skin. What is it? Mohs surgery is the way that we remove aggressive types of skin cancer and skin cancers in certain areas. So part of the building that we're providing has a certain area that's about 6,000 square feet for general dermatology and cosmetic services. Cosmetic services is, hey, I've got some wrinkles here, I'm getting older, and I don't want to look older. So that's what happens also along with general dermatology on the left side of our building, about 6,000 square feet, 12 exam rooms. On the right side of the building is where Mohs surgery happens, and that's where we're cutting out certain types of skin cancer. And then on the second floor of the building is where we have clinical trials, and that's a really, really cool thing. Patients will come from all over Ohio to go to this clinical trials practice. These are for patients that have dermatological issues that haven't been able to be treated effectively for their care. And so they might be suffering something for 10 years, and they'll come to us, and we work with drug companies to help create new drugs to help solve problems for patients. So we're really proud of that, and very cutting edge in the way we practice. And then, the slide 7, these are just the different things that we do that are really important to us. And then on the end, you just have a bunch of photos. These are just examples of patients that we see. Slide 3 would be a cancer that had not been, that's been neglected for too long. Slide 10 is a picture of a cancer that's been neglected. Slide 11 is us removing that cancer. We do this in our office. And then slide 12 is the repairing of that, the patient after we remove their cancer. So anyway, thank you so much for your time, and I'd be happy to address any questions. I would just say that we're really looking forward to serving your community. We save people's lives every day by identifying cancer early, by removing their cancer, and we know there's a real need in your community, and excited to be able to provide that service. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And then, Mr. Chairman, I would say, we sat here through previous presentations. This is a situation where you have a shovel-ready project. The only concern that we have is actually being able to move right away and not lose the construction season. You have an occupant of the building who knows exactly what they want to do in every nook and cranny of that facility, and a site that, as the board is aware from having had to, on its own previously, grant variances when Golden Link Drive was put in, poses challenges that make us meet the practical difficulty requirements. It's sandwiched in between two State Route 8 and Golden Link Drive, and there are easements that run across it, and the development that, at least in terms of the setbacks that are in front of the board tonight, are comparable to put us in line with our neighbors in terms of where our parking would be, things of that nature. We'll go more in depth as the board may have questions as we go along. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Mitchell Harvey from Stonefield Engineering to go through the site plan and the engineering aspects of it. And the gentleman right there is Jason Hunt, who's also with Avid Studios for the architectural firm. And I'll turn it over to Mitchell.
Good evening, everybody. So the site that we are looking at is The vacant parcel in between the Chipotle to the north and the Culvers to the south, so it's kind of the last little undeveloped piece within this Golden Lake corridor here. And what we're proposing is a 2-story medical office with associated parking and site landscaping. So as designed, the site has 72 parking spaces, which is the minimum number of space, max optimum to operate their uses that they didn't explain to you earlier. So part of tonight's variance request is for 5 separate variances. They're all related to parking and landscaping. So the 5 that we're looking for is parking and landscaping buffer along State Route 8, which is up here. Parking and landscaping along the new access drive here. And the parking setback along Golden Lake Boulevard. And just double check to make sure it's along. Yeah. So those are the 5 very different variances we're requesting, and they're all related to the configuration of the parking lot and the need for the 72 spaces across the site.
When you said 72 spaces for Optima's operation, yep. Not the city's code or?
The city's code, we had to enact the 80% reduction. So at 82% of the entire square footage being treated as usable floor area, we need 68 spaces.
And you have 72.
We have 72.
That is the minimum operationally that they can get away with, because it's a very employee-intensive operation. So they have employees, but they need parking for the employees, and then you have the patients that come in. Nancy may be able to speak better to this, but those parking spaces are actually needed.
Yeah, so we don't want to create a situation where, even though the code allows for 68 spaces, we don't want to create a situation where patrons are using neighboring spaces. And what we found with this site, and why we feel it is unique,
thank you,
is your typical lot normally has 1 frontage. Here we have 3 frontages along 3 different public roads: State Route, Access Drive, and Golden Lake. We also have multiple utility easements on Golden Lake as well as the State Route main road here. They're kind of restricting our site. On top of that, there's an 11 by 6 foot culvert that runs up this main drive here. So those were some of the practical difficulties that we identified.
The culvert you said is about the driveway?
The culvert runs right up through here.
Right, okay.
And so we understand that, the parking spaces are going into this buffer. So we wanted to maintain the city's required number of trees. We also had discussions with the Planning Commission on Monday about including the decorative wall or fence, if you will, that's along the culverts along here and then goes down. We'll be doing that the same along our property to kind of lessen that parking space, being located so close to the right of way. And then the last item I want to touch on is consistency within the corridor. So I put up our plan next to Culver's, and I wanted to kind of demonstrate where their parking lot and their pavement lines up with ours as proposed. So up here, where we have the state route variance request, we are right in line with what Culver's currently has. Down here, Culver's is actually right on their property line, where we're providing, I believe it's 3 feet across this access road. And then down here, we have an 8-foot buffer where Culver's, these red lines are the straight lines that I drew to kind of demonstrate that what we're proposing is not extremely unique to the area. It's, what we're kind of seeing is development has been occurring along Golden Lake. So that's really the purpose of this exhibit here. But beyond that, we think that for those reasons, that the variance request meets the requirements that were outlined in the ordinance. And then we can get into any of the specific ones you guys would like to talk about.
that it?
That's all I got.
Good. All right. So let's go with the first case, and then we'll go from there. Is there any generic questions before we get into cases?
Of course. So I just got so the picture that's on here, is this like the standard building?
That is,
Because I'm just,
That's a bit outdated. That was.
Yeah,
well, I'm just saying, is that compared to how you adapted it for our,
it shows you the transformation that we went through to meet the Western Reserve standards and to customize it.
From this to this?
Yeah.
From this to this, and we're still working with the architect.
yeah, that's what I'm asking.
So with
Yeah.
the final development plan, hopefully we'll have the final letting.
There's a big trend.
As a lawyer, I've had the dream client who's been willing to do, they've really done bent in every way they can. That it's possible for them to do that, to accommodate the city's needs.
Mr. Chairman, if I could interject at this point, the Planning Commission did grant this plan, preliminary plan approval. They didn't consider the architecture, but they did grant preliminary site plan approval to the site itself. One of the issues that was outstanding was obviously the variance request, and they left that to the pleasure of the Board of Zoning Appeals. Thank you.
Okay. Let's do case 661, and the appeal is there any correspondence from any notified adjacent property owners?
No.
No one solicited correspondence either, correct? Okay, will the zoning inspector please state the city's position on case 661, please?
Just to note, case 661 and 662 are the Route 8 side. One is parking, one is landscape buffer setback. So 661. The Board of Zoning and Building Code Appeals will hear a request for a variance at 8183 Golden Lake Boulevard for Optima Dermatology. The variance is to section 1171-11E2A. Parking and access drives shall be set back from the street right-of-way a minimum of 20 feet. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the Route 8 parking setback from the right-of-way from the required 20 feet minimum to 7.1 feet.
Mr. Could you put the other board up so the variances are depicted? Yes, that might be best. Great, thank you.
So that's this one, that's the 7.1 is done.
All right, perfect. And that's on the Route 8?
Yes, sir.
Correct? Okay. Does the board have any questions?
Was there any consideration given to the parking spots being right on Route 8? So the difference with Culver's is I think it's part of the drive-through, right? Mm-hmm. Not parking spaces facing Route 8. So was there any consideration given to landscaping or anything? I don't know the elevation difference between.
You were blocking the headlights like?
Yeah. There is I think I provided a grading plan, and it shows it is a large.
Elevations is on
Yeah,
C3, I think.
We would kind of be level with the road and then it dips down and dips back up again. Okay. And so on another page, I include the landscape plan that shows how we want to incorporate the trees. And we're also going to have that screening, I don't want to call it a wall because we have
It's a fence and the pillars.
Fence and the pillars across that. So that's the idea to kind of soften that there. Okay. Because I didn't see that in the picture.
The only other thing I would add is obviously it's a doctor's office, it's not a nightly use, it's not of course there's always having employees doing paperwork, but it's an office that's typically used during the day.
Right. Well, it's also Ohio, it gets dark early.
Yeah, no, I live here.
It's a huge building, okay, which we don't have 2 stories, number one. And, number two, we're looking at it, it's a sea of parking spaces, asphalt. Okay, that's what we're looking at, but
So just to clarify, this is updated, correct?
That right there is getting closer to where we're at. We're working with planning commission on.
In terms of the landscaping?
Oh, yeah, that's just a rendering for the purposes of the presentation. It doesn't reflect the landscape plan provided.
And when you say the ditch, okay, are you talking the ditch that's between Route 8 and the ditch in the property?
The right of way, the pavement line on Route 8, it ditches down, and then when it hits our property, it comes back up.
It goes back up, correct.
Yeah, so looking at this, I got a top of curve of 671. Our top of curve is 671 and a half in places, 671.3 in places. So it'll be a similar elevation to the road.
Okay, so from the front of that parking spot on Route 8 to Route 8, how many feet is it?
You got 7.1 to the right of way. Without a scale, I would estimate there's another 20 to 30 feet between the property line of that pavement.
And Route 8?
This distance here, if that's
In between the parking spots, the front of the parking spot and your red line is 20, 30 feet, as you were saying?
Nope, so from our parking space here to that line there, which is our property line, 7.1, which we're requesting.
Right.
Beyond this, this line right here is our pavement line.
Right.
So without a scale, I'm going to estimate that at about 25 to 30 feet.
Okay. Any other questions, gentlemen?
One question for the city. Do you know this this email, is this pursuant to this case? Sorry. From
Mark Adedi?
It's not specific to this case. It would relate to any of the other projects that had gone on in the Golden Link, because there was a kind of an HOA there.
Okay.
And they had their own criteria, and Mr. Guidetti wanted to clarify that, we don't participate in the criteria. That's between these folks and the ownership. We'll manage our code, though.
Got it. Thank you.
And one note to add on that is we got that approval today from the HOA, because they approved this.
Okay, thank you.
I had reached you. Give that to everybody. This way we all have it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions? Gentlemen, you have anything to add?
No, other than the fact that you're asking everybody for a variance of anywhere from 71 to 85% of the standards.
The one thing I understand that, and we very much appreciate that, and the ask of the board. The one thing I would just ask, this is really a unique site, and I know this is easy to throw around, but just the history of the site with how Golden Link was put in, and the variances that were granted before we ever came before the board when Golden Link was put in, just shows you the kind of challenge that we're dealing with. And you have a use that is absolutely perfect for that site, it has those needs. But when you think of the impact on the community, when you think of the impact on the neighbors, it's all beneficial in every way possible. And all of these are factors. The size of the variance is only one of 7 other factors, and almost every other factor weighs heavily in favor of granting the variance. And just even going back over the point that we just mentioned, it's a setback from the right of way, not a setback from the road. So the right of way goes further out. So when you actually add the distance from the side of the road until the end of the right of way, and then from there, we're going another 7 feet, practically on the ground. On paper, it sounds substantial, but practically on the ground, it's not as impactful as it looks. If that makes sense.
If you were granted the variance for the Route 8 side, what would you do?
If we were not. So what would happen is we would have to lose this whole bay of parking here, because this existing cross-access we have to tie into Culver's up here, this existing sub-road.
Right.
So we wanted to tie in here, and so it's not like we can sheet this up to abide by it. We'll lose, I want to say there is 17 parking spaces in this bay, and that'll take us way below where we need to be both from an operational perspective and an ordinance perspective.
The sidewalk work was not closed on the purchase.
Any other questions, board members? No, chair entertains a motion.
If we make a motion, are we going to do this one at a time?
Yes.
Or can we?
Each case, we're gonna go 661 all the way down through. Am I correct? We have to do that?
You're correct.
Right.
But the first two are so close that we could do one and then do the next one,
Okay.
I think.
We'll do them one at a time.
Right.
And we'll go from there. So, the chair, open for any motion? Before we even do that, okay, planning commission already gave them a approval on the site plan, correct? But nothing in,
That's correct.
nothing solid about the size of the building, the shape of the building, I mean, has that been approved yet?
No, they were clear that the architecture still is a work in progress.
And can I say one thing, on our discussion we had Monday, we don't anticipate modifying the footprint at all. It's just architectural elements that meet more of the Western Reserve style.
Yeah, I think it was.
Very much, sorry.
I was going to say, it was just trying to reduce the mass is what I think was the goal of our architectural consultant. And I think the architect had made some inroads on Monday night regarding that.
And when you say mass, you mean the building?
Yeah, the height.
Just the height?
Yes.
It's a two-story building.
The only thing I would just say, and my previous life was a law director, so I very much respect the different jurisdictions of different boards and commissions, and there's a reason why there's a board of zoning appeals and a planning commission, and each performs a different function. The only thing I would just say is even the commentary, and Mr. Rodick was there, the planning commission, when they voted to approve it, and you have members of the planning commission, Mr. Westbrook, one of the top traffic engineers that you could ever ask for in the country, you had the, architects of the world. They understood that from a site plan perspective, and even they discussed that when they were voting. It was really, that was the site plan that could work for the site. It was very hard to change that site plan, and part of their commentary in voting to approve it is that they fully recognize that we didn't have many options there, that was the site plan that actually worked.
Then I guess I will ask for a motion from the board.
I'll move that we approve case number 661 as requested.
I'll second it.
Will the recording secretary please call roll for the vote?
Mr. Colado?
Yes.
Mr. Ferraro?
Yes.
Mr. Shalko?
Yes.
Mr. Alfredo?
Yes. Case 661 has passed. And we're going to go on to case 662. Will the zoning inspector please state their city's position?
The Board of Zoning and Building Code Appeals will hear a request for a variance at 8183 Golden Lake Boulevard for Optima Dermatology. The variance is to section 117111 E4 E2. Parking areas shall have a landscape area no less than 20 feet in width along all adjacent street or highway right-of-way. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the Route 8 landscape buffer setback from the right-of-way from the required 20 feet minimum to 7.1 feet.
Could you show us exactly where he's talking about?
It's the exact same one, it's right along here, this is just the landscaping buffer as opposed to the parking.
In front of the parking spots?
Yep.
Correct?
Yep.
And that buffer will be with bushes, I know we don't have, oh, there it is, you have it there.
I got it.
You have it in there, good. And the fencing and the pillars, correct?
Yep, so fencing and pillars will be up along here, and then these are our trees we got throughout there.
Good thing, that was coming out of my mouth.
Well, that's good. You could ask another question. Go ahead, it's your turn.
So yeah, we intend on meeting all buffering requirements when it comes to a planting schedule.
In landscaping.
In landscaping, it's just the width that we're struggling with, but we're still gonna accommodate all the trees, all the shrubbery, everything that we need. meet code there. And for what it's worth, they're expensive planning materials. It's going to be a very good looking site, matched with the building.
So we're going from 20 feet down to 7.1 foot. Is what you're looking for, right?
Yep.
Any other questions?
I make a motion, we accept case number 662.
Second. Rachel, would you please take a roll call?
Mr. Colado?
Yes.
Mr. Ferraro?
Yes.
Mr. Shalko?
Yes.
Mr. Iafreda?
Yes.
Case 662 is passed. And we're going to go on to case 663. Will the zoning inspector please state the city's position?
Case 663 and 651 deal with the access drive, parking, and landscape setback. So case 663, the Board of Zoning and Building Code Appeals will hear a request for a variance at 8183 Golden Lake Boulevard for Optima Dermatology. The variance is to section 117111E4E2. Parking shall have a landscape area no less than 20 feet in width along all adjacent street or highway right-of-way. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the Route 8 access road landscape buffer setback from the right-of-way from the required 20 feet minimum to 3 feet.
You have that up?
It's the access drive down here. This is correct. It's the access drive.
Yeah, the access, sorry.
Yeah. So it's the access drive down here. Just flat about it. This is the landscaping we're proposing across there. On top of the pillar fence that'll be across here, exactly like
Landscaping in the inside of the pillar fence or on the outside of the pillar
the
fence?
pillar fence is going to be outside here, actually within the right of way, similar to the way Culver's has it here. You might be able to see it on this here. Can I lay this here?
Yeah, go ahead.
So this
is got a mess now.
This is the fence here that Culver's has.
Yes.
We're going to do the exact same thing here and the exact same thing here. So on this side, the fence is in right of way. On this side, the fence is in our property or Culver's property. We'll have the fence on our property, fence in the right of way here. So it's going to be a copy of this thing.
This is only 3 foot wide, is what you're saying?
Nope, from the back of our parking to this yellow line is 3 feet wide. From here to here, once again, I'm going to estimate, if this is 3 feet, we'll call that 10. So we got 13 feet from curb to.
That's going to be all pillars and fencing out there.
Pillars, fencing, and then and landscaping along the property line there. Very similar to what Culver's has. I don't know if Culver's has trees in there, though. It's the only thing that may be different. But we intend to have trees.
This is relevant here. Well, it seems to me that off of Route 8, there's not going to be any vision problems with the fencing, or I take it this is your sign?
Yes, sir.
The monument sign. So coming out, there's no vision problem. Coming in, there's no problem at all. Any other question, guys? Okay. The chair's going to entertain a motion for case 663.
Well, I will make a motion that the board accepts case number 663 as stated or read.
I'll second it.
Rachel, do we have a roll, please?
Mr. Colado?
Yes.
Mr. Ferraro?
Yes.
Mr. Shalko?
Yes.
Mr. Iafreda?
Yes.
Case 663 is passed. We're going to move on to case, well, should we do 651?
Yes, because
This
that's
way?
the same
Okay.
location.
We're going to do case 651 right now, and Chris, would you please state the city's position on it?
The Board of Zoning and Building Code Appeals will hear a request for a variance at 8183 Golden Lake Boulevard for Optima Dermatology. The variance is to section 117111E2A. Parking and access drives shall be set back from the street right-of-way a minimum of 20 feet. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the Route 8 access road parking setback from the right-of-way from the required 20 feet minimum to 3 feet.
Go ahead.
Same location. sorry. Right along here.
Coming in.
They want that 20 feet, will be a 3. Once again, we're planting the trees along there and providing the fencing. So same justification for the last one, and it's the same dimensional request.
That's also the spot area where the sign is going in, correct? For Golden Link?
Yeah, the sign, it was mentioned in the review letter, and I gotta get with the city engineer on exactly where it's going, but it's gonna be somewhere in this right of way here. So we'll work our fencing around that or incorporate it with the sign. I just don't think that sign is in just yet. So we're gonna work with the city on coordinating our fencing, or that.
But yours is gonna be, you want your monument sign in the corner, correct?
Yes, sir.
Would you point that out to the board where you're talking?
Here.
Yeah.
Sam, can you tell me why this was tabled, old business, or for whatever reason?
I do not have an answer for that, but I'll pass it on. I can do that real good. Does anybody know why it's old business?
They applied for the variance earlier, and then it was put in the paper. We recorded this, I think, and there was no zoning meeting with Optima Dermatology.
We chose to also delay coming back before the board until we worked more on the architectural issues with the city. So when we were going to come the first time, the building was.
I remember that now.
The building was this.
Because there was
So we decided to get.
Yeah.
Right, there was no sense coming to our meeting because we couldn't give you any variances.
So we wanted to.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I'm trying to remember the date.
I'm old.
But we know now. We're glad you're awake.
First time, huh?
I haven't kicked yet. I'm 6 feet away. Any other questions from the board? Chair's open for any motion?
Well, I will make a motion.
Okay, 651.
Yes, sir. We accept case number 651 as written.
A second?
Rachel, will you do a roll call, please?
Mr. Pilato?
Yes.
Mr. Ferraro?
Yes.
Mr. Sacco?
Yes.
Mr. Iafreda?
Yes.
Case 651 has been approved. And we're going to go to case 664. Chris, would you state the city's position, please?
The Board of Zoning and Building Code Appeals will hear a request for a variance at 8183 Golden Lake Boulevard for Optima Dermatology. The variance is to section 117111E4E2. Parking areas shall have a landscape area no less than 20 feet in width along all adjacent street or highway rights-of-way. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the Golden Lake Boulevard landscape buffer setback from the right-of-way from the required 20 feet minimum to 8 feet.
Any questions to the city from the board? Any questions for the appellate from the board?
Can you just point this one out, please?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay.
He's the one who knows what he's doing. I'm just there.
These guys better be buying you dinner tonight. All they do is sit there smiling.
They're just here for good luck.
I'm here just as a good looking guy.
Yeah, okay.
So this is what this is the last variance request over here along Golden Lake. Here's our 8 feet from the end of parking space to the black property line. And then I think we have another 10 to 15 feet from the property line to the road, so.
So your main entrance is going to be at Golden Link, off of Golden Link, in and out?
Yes, sir, this is going to be the main entrance, and it's aligned with the access drive.
Culvert.
For Lowe's over here.
Okay, all right.
So we wanted to align it just for safe traffic flow, where you have, 90-degree turns, 100 meters.
And your other driveway is?
Connected up here with the Chipotle, and that's an existing stub road that was stuck onto our property, so we're going to utilize that cross access.
And that's Golden Link Boulevard we're talking about, okay, 660.
Yeah, this is Golden Link Boulevard right here. And then we'll also be connecting two sidewalks from Culver's all the way to Chipotle from across.
No fencing there?
No fencing there, because Culver's didn't have it, and it's just not consistent with the whole everywhere around here. It's more of an access drive and state route piece.
Well, as you're presenting this to the board, we hope, and I think I'm talking for everybody, that your landscaping is really, really nice for this size building and property that you have there, okay?
Yeah, and
Go ahead, no, you're, go.
Yeah, and so we're really sensitive to that because we understand we're requesting some landscaping variances. So we wanted to make sure we're meeting all the number of plants, number of trees. And beyond that, as you can tell, these guys take a ton of pride in how their building looks. And if the landscape doesn't look good at all, then it kind of defeats from how the building looks. So they have a big investment in the building. They're also investing heavily in landscaping because they work hand in hand. They match with each other. You don't want to have dead trees in front of a vibrant building that specializes in healthcare. You know, a dead tree would send the wrong messages. You know, so that was really our intent. I can go through the landscaping plan really quick, but we have a lot of trees in and around the building. There's some shrubbery, some decorative grasses like fountain grass and stuff like that. We have quite a few trees up here. We are screening our dumpster with some like evergreen shrubs. So, you know, we really wanted to do what we can to really enhance the building, enhance the site with as much landscaping.
Well, that's what we like to see because, like I said, this is a sea of asphalt, okay, in a huge building, all right? And to drop it right in the middle of something that's pretty much landscaped, I mean.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, you know, you learn a lot doing this kind of work in every business that there needs. And honestly, the one thing I've learned here is how scarce dermatologists are and how demanding they are to hire them to work for you. And they are involved to the point of approving the design, whether they like this, whether they don't like. I have a feeling, you know, your building department doesn't need to inspect the parking. The dermatologist will be doing your property inspections for you. That's the kind of workers that you would have in the building. And honestly, the caliber of the patients that you're trying to attract to that use, we can give you the best guarantee on the face of our, you know, all it does is if there's litigation at the end of the point, the best guarantee that we can give you is the business incentive. And the business incentive here is the caliber of the patients that they need and the dermatologists to work in that business will require, no matter what the city requires, the business need here is greater for something to live.
Well, the city appreciates that.
I'll leave all my lawyer jokes over there.
You don't got any signal to you.
I realize I should have become a
He probably
dermatologist
does.
too late.
Any other questions? Well,
Do we have to prove?
approve.
We hope so.
Yes, we have to approve
Yeah,
it.
we got the last one.
I'll ask you for any motions for case 664.
Might as well finish it. I make a motion, we accept case 664 as written.
I'll second it.
Seconded?
Oh, sorry.
Whoever. Rachel, would you take a roll call, please?
Mr. Pilato?
Yes.
Mr. Ferraro?
Yes.
Mr. Stelco?
Yes.
Mr. Iacopoulos?
Yes.
Case 664 has passed, and I think we're done for the evening, gentlemen.
Thank you very much. We truly appreciate the understanding of the board.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Pleasure working.
You guys killed the tree with all that
So
stuff.
you said that you guys are ready to go? I mean,
They're terrified about the construction season, so I think they're hoping to finish and kind of the final development done as soon as possible, work with the architecture.
Yes, the church.
In the ground.
okay, that's
I don't know
gonna
if you guys
be,
say it, but
wow,
I do.
that'll be.
Ready to go. This is
Good.
gonna be the first and the flagship.
When are you guys going back
Max,
to
you wanna
planning
speak?
commission?
I just want to thank the board so much for their support. We're so excited to be moving this project forward. We really want to help out really meaningful impact on the lives of our residents and community. So thank you.
You're welcome, and like I said, congratulations to you and your wife.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. You have a good evening.
Okay.
Will do. Thanks, guys.
When are you going back to the planning commission? Do you guys know?
I had a lengthy conversation with Pam today, trying to get it straightened out, so we're going through some revised concepts on Friday. And I think we're gonna go early next week will be probably where we are. The deadline for the next hearing. So
I don't know if you can get everything accomplished by then, so.
The next 2 months meeting, either October or September.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you very much. Have a good evening, gentlemen. Thank you.
Okay, dinner's on the wire.
You could, you can't do anything yet. Make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Make a motion to adjourn?
I'll second that motion.
Meeting's adjourned,
All right,
8:15.
all right.
I think we did pretty good.
Yeah, that was better than I thought it was.